We are now live. Uh, Thank you for everyone joining today. I hope you get something out of this session. I'm really looking forward to this pair testing with James Bach. He's an international tester and author and fairly well renowned in the space. Do you mind telling us a bit about yourself, James, before we dive into today?
Well, I've been in testing for more than 30 years. I wrote a book called Lessons Learned in Software Testing. And I'm currently writing a blog post about how when I was young, I would challenge all the old people and tell them that they didn't know what they were doing. And now that I'm old, I fully expect all the young people to do that to me. And that's exactly what they should do.
Yep, sure. So you're expecting me to tell you how wrong you are this time?
That's just normal. That's how it works with you and me.
Yep. And today we're going to go through how to test Slack notifications. Do you mind giving us a bit of an overview of the problem space there?
Yeah, some years ago, could you put up on your screen the thing? Okay, several years ago, Ajay Balamuru Gaddis, he came to me and said, "Hey, I found this complicated diagram of the logic for Slack notifications. Wouldn't this make a great testing exercise?" So I said, "Yeah, I really want to use this as an exercise." So I've used this as an exercise several times, and this is what it is. It is a flow chart showing the process of deciding whether or not Slack should send your device a notification. And you know, we so often in testing, people use these simplistic examples of login or something. Those are completely uninteresting to me. Any child can test stuff like that. What's really interesting and what's worthy of our practice and attention and study is deep testing of complicated logic. And Slack notifications isn't super complicated logic, but it's pretty complicated. And so I'd like to know how you, as a famous testing expert and bug hunter, Sam, which I absolutely and certainly believe that you are, how would you address this? How would you tackle this?
I'm also going to keep notes in a little mind map, and I'll share it with people after we're finished this session, if I can keep track of all my tabs that are open. So approaching how to test Slack notifications. I guess before diving deep into the complicated flow diagram, there is a bunch of other context-driven testing. I think I've got an airplane going overhead, so please excuse the background noise. I guess you could start with a little bit more context-related questions. You could ask the product team, has anything changed recently? Are there any...
Tell you what, I'll play the product team.
Okay.
I will present the context with you so that you can practice your context-driven art. All right, so I'll be the let's say I'm the product manager for this product. What are your questions?
These Slack notifications.
Yes.
Has anything changed recently? Or is it a completely
nothing major? Nothing major has changed recently, but we have had some complaints, and people are wondering whether the notification system is functioning correctly, because sometimes notifications seem to strangely not be sent. I've experienced this myself in Slack, where I think I've set up the notifications correctly, and yet I find that there's a message sitting there waiting for me that's been waiting for me for a week, and I didn't notice it, and I'm sure I didn't get a little chime, a little notification. So maybe it's time that we did some deep testing on this. And I'm not convinced we have done deep testing yet. And that's why we've called you in, Sam the Bug Hunter.
Cool. Yeah, actually, I will admit it's something I've noticed with my Slack as well. And I have Slack on an Android device right in front of me. I have Slack on an iOS device as well. I have both of these devices screen shared to this session as well. So this one's the iOS one. I can control it from my phone. And I've got this Android one as well. Good thing about Android is you can enable pointers so you can actually see where I'm tapping on the screen. But yeah, I have observed messages or notifications. Sometimes they just sit there for a week before you realize, particularly when you're in a situation where you've got a gazillion Slack groups to try and keep on top of as well. I mean, like, how do you keep on top of all the different Slack channels you might be part of?
Honestly, I feel like I'm buried under so much Slack pressure and content, and it's I'm not at all sure that I do stay on top and current with all this stuff. And maybe it's a case of the cobbler's children. The people at Slack should be the best at using Slack, but it's hard to keep up with it. So I guess I'm not sure what I can tell you about staying on top of Slack. I try to set up the notifications in the way that I want them, and I hope that they work. But I don't think they've been systematically tested. Here at Slack, they have a saying that everybody's responsible for quality, but I'm a little concerned that means that nobody is responsible for quality. That nobody is really looking closely and deeply at this because everybody has got other things to do.
Well, yeah, I guess.
That's why I think we need to do a deep dive on
Yeah. It's one of those things that I guess in the grand scheme of things, if notifications are a little bit buggy, it's not exactly going to impact the bottom line at the moment. Other than, I guess, what would you say is the risk for having this not quite work for your customers?
Well, I have to say it's keeping me up at night, the risk, because I think that Slack, it's become this huge billion-dollar thing. It never wasn't that way at first, but it became this huge thing. And now people are using Slack for mission critical situations. I keep hearing about medical people using it to message each other and instead of using a paging system. I'm worried now that this thing that was just about sort of team communications that weren't necessarily absolutely critical is now being put to use by potentially government organizations and emergency first responders who might be using Slack for really important things. And I think we have to stay on top of it. I think we have to assume the worst and assume that people are using this thing for more than just coordinating a team lunch.
Actually, that's really useful you bring that up. That does drive home a little bit more priority into why we should care and bother about doing this type of testing thoroughly. So yeah, I've got different devices set up to try and track this one. So we've got a multiple device situation, multiple. If I could just spell.
So I noticed that you've come to this session already prepared for certain kinds of testing. You must have anticipated that you would be doing testing with multiple devices.
Oh, my background is in mobile testing. It's a bit of a specialty of mine. So I'm just using this as a learning opportunity to be able to, and I found in previous teams, being able to have Android and iOS apps side by side to be able to compare the tools is a really useful heuristic. And sometimes you can pick up on really subtle quirks that are not obvious if you're only using one client.
Fascinating. Okay, great to know.
And so we've got Android. We have the only thing I'm not covering at the I don't have set up at the moment is the Mac desktop experience. I've got the Windows desktop, and I don't think we should necessarily focus on cross browser. We're only using the Chrome browser at the moment, just to be able to get those different. I think when it comes to web software, it tends to. Actually, I'm not a web. My specialty is not in web testing, and I can't really say just because it works on one browser doesn't mean it's guaranteed to work on all the other ones. Safari is a famous example of things not working correctly, and if you don't have a Mac or some sort of Apple device, it can actually be quite challenging to be able to do that type of cross-browser testing. But I'm not going to focus on that type of testing because it's not necessarily my specialty.
Okay.
And so we've got this complicated diagram. And so basically there's two outcomes from this diagram. There's yes, I do send someone a notification, and no, I don't send a notification.
Mm-hmm.
We can kind of view this graph as a traversal type of graph. Actually, before I jump into that point, I'm just going to do some basic sanity testing. Would you like to ping me a Slack notification, please? And we'll just see a basic example.
You mean send you a message?
Yes, please.
Okay. I will. Do you want me to DM you or send it to you in a room that you happen to be in?
Well,
how about the
the
satisfy stream there?
Yeah, I think the DM is fine because a DM should send a notification if I have a look through.
Okay, so because I can do different things. I can mention you. I can just send something in a room you happen to be in, or I can DM you. Which way would you like?
Okay.
Or all three? What would you like me to do?
Well, let's try the first option you suggested, which was it?
You're in the general room in the RST Slack space. So I just sent a message without a mention in it of you.
And that's good because I didn't receive any notifications. So that's a really good negative test.
And then if I mention you now, let's see if you get something.
So I expect on. There we go.
I heard that.
Yeah, it's because on my Mac is is also logged into my Slack, and I'm not sharing my Mac at the moment, but it's right next to my microphone. So that's actually a good oral test for if we get the notification, we actually should be able to hear it. At the moment, I can't switch to my Mac because as soon as I switch to my Mac, my microphone stops. There we go.
Oh, okay.
Because it's all hooked up to a KVM switch I have at the moment. But at least we can hear those notifications come through. And
you don't get a notification if the message gets edited, though.
No.
I guess maybe that makes sense.
Okay.
Maybe you should get a notification if it gets edited, though. Edit notifications. I wonder if we've thought about that. I should make a note of that from a product management point of view, whether anyone's found out about that. I'm pretending to be a product manager for Slack. I'm not. I have no affiliation with them in my normal life. But in my role, I would say, oh, that's an idea. I wonder if we've thought that through.
Yeah. And I'm just taking a note of that in my mind map as well. So because I am live streaming on as well, so did I receive the Slack notifications. So if I go into Slack and General, I should be able to see them there now. We heard the notifications come through on the Mac. And I think because I had a client session that was already in that channel, I don't know if because I don't think I got sent the mobile notifications on iOS from that.
Well, what does the diagram say? Does the diagram say that you're going to get notifications across all of the devices, or just
Yeah, that's
one device, or your active device, or how does that work?
That is a good question. So there is apparently a global notification preference for this device. So I guess you could
Well, but I don't think that's what that means. I don't think global notification preference means notify every device. I think global, it means general. It's the general. Well, I don't know. We should find out what that exactly means.
Yeah. So
but I think that doesn't mean for all devices.
But I think it's set per device. Is the oops. So what does? That's another good question. What does global notification preference mean? Because it seems that I've gotten the notification on my Mac, and that's where the sound comes from. But I didn't receive the the Apple or the Google notifications. And
is the sound on those devices?
No. But
so you might have gotten a sound on all of them.
Well, I can unmute my devices.
You want to try again?
Silent off. I'm going to close them all. And this one I will also put on loudness and put that one to sleep. Yes, if you could retry that one, that'd be good.
Okay. Okay. Sent.
Cool.
Now I didn't hear anything.
I heard the one from the Mac.
Oh, okay.
But I don't think I got any mobile notifications.
Did you set up your devices? Maybe that's have you recorded and checked the notification settings on each device?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I disable mobile notifications because
Okay.
So,
what a demonstration of testing this is.
Yes.
I'm a good tester.
Yep.
Okay, so we probably should know what the settings are and maybe even record them.
Yep. I'm going to put on my screen mirroring again so that I can share this one.
I just looked at my settings from my iPad, and I have a notifications thing that I have. Sound is set to ding, include a preview, notify me on mobile.
So
Yes.
we've actually now tested that with notifications off on mobile for all Slack, that you only get the notifications on through the other services rather than on mobile. So at least it behaves to what I've set on my device, which is no notifications from Slack. So I've now switched notifications back on for Slack. That's on iOS. So before I switch Android on, would you like to ping me again? And we should see that on iOS now come through. If it...
Okay.
So I'll just switch one on at a time. And we'll just increment through that.
Okay.
So I heard that on the Mac. But there does not appear. Oh no, there is one. So
On where?
On
Which device?
on iOS, you can see that Slack on the home screen has got the bubble notification.
Oh yes, I see that. Right.
However, I didn't get one from the notification center list.
Are you sure you activated that?
Yep.
Because you have to set that up to get those kinds of notifications. That's your okay. Yeah, go
Yeah. So
to Slack there.
it was notification.
Banner, sounds, badges. Right.
Yeah.
Well, but I think that's your global notification. But is your channel is your channel settings set up? So if you go to the channel and you click on the settings there.
Is there? Can you see?
It's not there. It's not. That's not where it is. Here,
Okay.
go back up, back out of that. Now go to the channel just to where you can see the messages. Right.
Is it on
Oh,
the?
interesting. On my iPad, I have a little three-dot menu in the corner that I use to get to the settings. I'm not sure how it works in with
Okay.
that
No, it does look
screen.
like.
Oh, there you are. That's
Yeah.
it. That's it.
It seems
So
that
include a
on
preview.
mobile they've changed it to this little U tab down in the bottom corner.
Oh, okay. There you go. All right. Well, that's strange because I don't. Okay, I guess maybe I'm using an old version, or maybe it's different on the iPad Pro. Interesting how it's. I'm not seeing the same thing, but I see that now. I see that settings the same as you do. So you have a sound, and it says include a preview. So that's there, and it says direct messages and mentions, not all messages. Okay, so you can change that to all messages. Boy, it seems like it would be crazy to have all messages turned on like that. I mean, for most Slack situations, you'd just be buried in notifications all the time. I get so many LinkedIn notifications. I've tried to turn them off, and I still get too many. Anyway,
but there
okay,
is
so
on mobile there is also another consideration, and that's the Apple API limits, or like the Google Play limits as well.
what limits are those?
That is a good question. Let's have a little Google.
I didn't know about that.
I think Apple restricts. So if you send an Apple push notification, it is not guaranteed to be sent because Apple's system can go, I think you're being spammy. I'm not going to send your notification.
Oh, really?
At least that's been my experience with other silent push notification throttling on the Apple developer blogs. This is... So if you send a push event before the previous one has been received by the device, the previous event is lost.
Oh.
iOS on the device does progressively greater throttling limit the number of times the app will launch in the background. Apple reserves the right to throttle your push notification server side.
Wow. Well, that makes it very confusing then to know whether it's why you didn't get a notification.
Yeah.
Huh.
So yeah, mobile devices do introduce a certain level of complexity around this type of testing as well, because Apple and Google have opinions on when you should send notifications or not as well.
Boy, I guess we need to learn a lot more about that. Maybe can we even track that? Do we have to do special server-side logging to find out whether something has been throttled or not, or is it just?
There is a way to with your. Are you using any analytics in the Slack mobile apps?
Yeah, I mean, sure. On the back end, we got analytics. We got some. I'm sure there's some secret analytics. I can't tell you very much about that.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. On a previous
Secret,
on a
super
previous
secret.
team, we've used Adobe Analytics, but I've had experience with a couple of the other ones as well, and they're usually generated on the mobile side, so
Yeah.
you can trigger an
So
analytics
maybe the
event.
tester should get a hold of those to do testing then. Okay.
Because you can, if you're measuring interactions, and if, say, someone opens up a mobile app notification and they're meant to
Yeah.
land on a particular page, you can track that event that they came to that page from the notification.
Okay.
And so you should be able to tell the difference between someone who's navigated to that channel or that group from the app versus from a notification.
Okay.
But you will get some sort of drop-off rate because not everyone clicks through all the time. But if you wanted to potentially track engagement around interactions, you could set up like a baseline with having a good metric in place. And then going, at the moment we have a 10% tap-through rate. And then if you make enhancements and you think it improves how notifications get sent, if you see that baseline increase, it should mean that whatever was implemented might be indicating that it's actually working.
Maybe, yeah. But I mean, during a closed testing process, though, does that really help us? I mean, I want to know if every single notification was properly sent by our servers, whether it was received by your stupid Apple device doesn't work right was different.
Yeah.
But I want our apps to do the right thing, and I want our servers to do the right thing, and we can't control the internet that's in between. But we want our stuff to do the right thing. So how can we just need to track that? Is this analytics stuff something that can help us do that, you think?
I think, yeah, I using the analytics
Okay, so
frameworks,
we should
because
really look at that then.
yeah, because the analytics across the web as well, they're usually the same tools. And if you're tracking the same events, and if someone's clicking on a notification from
Okay.
and receiving it, you should be able to trigger an event on your client side that you've actually received the notification through your Mac or web clients.
I wonder if this is starting to give me the idea of there might be some mass notification testing that's possible using client-side analytics plus server-side analytics plus some monitoring of the various databases. I wonder if that would be helpful to do a test of 10,000 devices getting notified. Or maybe that's silly. Maybe that's not necessary in testing notification. But to get back to the diagram, though,
Yeah.
I have a question about how what we're doing relates to this diagram, because it seems like the testing we've been doing so far is more like sanity testing. Just like, can we see that any notification ever happens at all? And can you tell me why this kind of testing of this basic, I send you a message and you see that you get notified, why that kind of testing is useful to do instead of diving into an analysis immediately of this diagram?
Well, I apologize for getting a little bit distracted by doing that type of sanity basic testing.
Wait. I don't think you were distracted, and I don't think that it was wrong for you to do that. So I'm sorry if I implied.
No, I just wanted to.
I don't think it. I think I think there's a really good reason for you to do this.
Yeah.
But I thought you knew it, which is why I asked you the softball question.
Yeah. I'm just playing along as being like that.
Okay, so
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Answer. So you made your apology that you hopefully didn't really mean, and then
exactly.
what is your explanation?
It's an exploratory testing technique. We're trying to learn how the product works in the current situation before we dive deeper into fleshing it out even further. By helping, we're helping build a baseline of how we think the product works. We're developing our own internal heuristic of what a basic notification in Slack does. And we've actually learnt quite a few things by going down that path. That it helps to have mobile notifications enabled if you expect to see them on mobile. But also that maybe using mobile devices is not really a good, accurate baseline for when you get to a point of making enhancements to this. You might want to be able to do that really broad analytic-based testing in production where you can run an experiment for a week and actually assess if more notifications are actually being triggered and actioned by users.
Hey, that's a nice answer. That's a nice answer.
Do you?
If I'm speaking as a tester now,
Yep.
I would give an answer that is basically the same answer. I would use a few different words because I'm me, but I think my answer maps to what you said. I would say that we need to build a mental model of the product, and we need to do that through whatever the most natural, comfortable learning process is for us. For some people, that will be doing a lot of reading. For other people, that'll be playing with the product. But whatever the fastest, most comfortable, effective way to learn the basics that you need to know in order to read this diagram. Because if we're going to analyze this diagram, we need to understand the diagram. To understand the diagram, we need to understand the product. So whatever kind of familiarization you need to do, go and do that. And that's going to take the form of sanity testing, play, what you might call familiarization testing. I like to call it survey testing because I feel like I'm surveying the space that I'm going to test. So yes, absolutely no reason to apologize. This is perfectly professional behavior. But you might apologize for if someone doesn't understand testing and they don't know why you're doing something and you feel like you didn't explain it to them or lead them along, then you might apologize for that, if they were really confused. But I think this makes perfect sense to just start simple, get your feet wet. You might stumble into a bug right away or some mystery right away. In fact, we do have a mystery. How come some devices seem to have a notification and others don't, even though they all may actually have notifications turned on? And on my device, they're all turned on, and yet I seem to sometimes not get them. Now, maybe by analyzing this diagram, we're going to find out more about that. So at some point, we need to turn our eyes to this diagram and grapple with it. And probably because we've got limited time, we should probably do that pretty soon, I would think.
Yep.
But I do think the way you started is a really professional way to start. And we can't allow people to feel bad about that. Too many testers feel bad about
that you have to spend time learning the product.
And they go like, oh, real experts don't do that. Yes, real experts do that. The best experts do that.
Yeah. Anyway. I've been playing around with database structures recently because I have to figure out what data I need to import and export. And, I'm literally just playing around with a couple of scripts to see what I can learn.
I wrote a report for a court case that was a total of 350 pages long. It was essentially a book that I wrote, that I was paid to write, that 4 people in the whole world ever saw. And that started with, it took thousands of hours to do, but it started with play. It started with getting the product and playing with it. It always starts with play, for me anyway. But I acknowledge that some different people might have different learning styles, and some people might say, oh, well, I would like to read the manual first. Like, that's totally legitimate.
Yeah.
That's why I say I'm not just dictating that my method of learning is the best. I'm saying pick with a method of learning that is comfortable to you, dive into that, and then that's your entry point. And then we can get to something like this, which we This is the Death Star that we're getting closer and closer to, and now what? How do you tackle something like this, Sam?
Well, I think it'd be useful to try to represent this in a more traversal graph type of approach.
What do you mean by traversal graph?
So we have a start destination and an end destination in this graph. If I put these two graphs side by side, I hope we can put this side by side. If we imagine that our start location is A and we're at this location, should we send a notification? And then each of these nodes in the graph represent different decision points. So is the channel muted? Yes, no. And we go in separate directions based on those.
Okay, so you're saying there's different pathways to get from point, literally in this case, from point A to point E.
Yeah.
Or point A to point C, whatever it is.
So if E is we send a notification and C is we don't send a notification, we can see there's potentially, in this example, 4 paths to get from A to E. There's A to E directly. You could go via A, B, and then E, A, C, and E, and A, B. You can take the really roundabout way.
A, B, D, C, E. Okay.
Yeah. Whereas to not send a notification, if it was from A to C, there's only 2 paths to that one.
Yeah, okay. Right. So we have many different. Are you saying then we would, once you identify the paths, you need to test every path?
I wouldn't say you'd necessarily need to be able to test all the paths, but if you know the number of all of the different paths that could happen, it might be worthwhile having a random path generator that goes through. If you were able to control every single node, if you had a state machine that could trigger each node and put these in the correct state that it needed to beforehand, maybe when you're doing your light regression testing or some sanity testing, you pick a random yes path and a random no path. And then eventually, by doing that over a week's worth of development, you might actually get enough coverage over all of the paths.
Okay. So what's next then?
What's next? Well, you can break out the traversal graph into a tree representation, and then it just makes it easier to trigger to potentially visualize. I think someone.
All right. How would we do that?
I don't know how to. What do you know? Do you know a good graphing tool?
I know a lot of different tools. I would personally start with something a little different. I would start more fundamentally, which is why I think if I kept asking you and pushing you here, I think you would eventually come to the starting point that I came to. So I'm reluctant to tell you. I'd rather kind of see you have your natural progression and see if you come to a different conclusion than I came to when I looked at this. So I'm trying to learn the maximum amount from you right now. So I don't want to bias you with what my solution was. So I'm just, in answer to your question, do I know of a good graphing tool? I know of various graphing tools. Of course, there are tools where you can draw things, and then there are tools where you can render things if you have a text representation or a data representation. You use GraphViz to visualize these things. I don't think there's a good tool for drawing graphs that's an open source tool. I'm sure there must be tools that are expensive paid tools that let you draw graphs for general purpose grasp, but I haven't found one. I'd sure like to know one if it's out there.
Mm.
So what I tend to do is just draw it. Just draw it on a whiteboard or on a piece of paper, and then at a certain point I translate that into a text representation.
Yeah.
But let's say that you have whatever tools you have. I mean, you right now you've got what you've got on your system at this moment. You're just like a typical tester. You're not in an ideal world. You're in the world that you happen to be in.
I do have some paper in front of me. It just doesn't. It's nice and big. But it's just harder to share.
Right. I have a whiteboard app that I use on my iPad, and then I have an app which takes my iPad and moves it onto my PC so that I can share that window. So it's really cool. It's called Mirror 360 on the iPad. It's the tool that I use, and so I will use that when I'm dealing with students. Or I have a graphics tablet and I use the Microsoft Whiteboard, which is really good whiteboard kind of thing for drawing. But what I'd want to know though is, what are you drawing? I mean, walk me through this. Take a look at this diagram closely and tell me what you find worth drawing about it.
Cool. I will do that. Once I finish writing.
I see a box. I see there's a box here that says channel muted. What would you do with that?
Well, if you wanted to branch off this, the legend seems to indicate that blue is a preference. So is that a user-specific action? So I take it I could.
That is a user-specific preference.
Yeah. So
in fact, it's a channel-specific and user-specific preference.
So if you wanted to potentially test that path, that first one is if someone mutes the channel, it should go no, and then hopefully continue some sort of no path. No, there's just a channel muted. Oh, yes. So if the channel's muted,
what does channel muted mean?
So I think if you go to, if I go back to Slack, there should be a way to mute the channel.
Well, what if it's a DM message?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think that's why there is.
If it's a DM message, then does it matter what channel you're currently looking at? I would think it wouldn't. So does a different logical progression apply if it's a DM message versus a channel message? Or is this only the diagram for channel messages? Maybe it's only the diagram for channel messages.
If the thing is, every person that can send you a direct message is a member of a channel, right?
Well, yeah, they might not be a member of any channels you're a member of. You might not have any channels in common, but they can DM you, right? They can always DM you.
I don't think, Barack Obama, who's part of the White Office Slack group, would be able to DM me without us being in the same channel.
No. You have to be in the same Slack group, same Slack workspace. But a channel is different than a workspace.
Is it?
Right. If you look right now, I'll show you. If you bring up, general. Right now, look, you see you're in the general channel right there. Do you see underneath general? If you go down, it says direct messages.
Yes.
So you've got channels, and then completely independent of this, you have direct messages. And you can direct message people even if you're not in any of the channels that they're in.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I meant.
Okay, sorry. My understanding was that direct messages, because I thought this bit here, rapid software testing, was the channel.
Right. That's the workspace.
Okay, cool. That's good to learn that workspace is different from channel.
Yeah, there you go. So now I think you've just proven something, Sam, that gets to how I approach this. So I'm now not worried about biasing you.
Hmm.
The first thing that I did when I looked at this diagram is I said, I need to make sure I understand the diagram because I'm not sure I do understand the diagram. And one of the first things to do to understand the diagram is to look at every one of the boxes and ask yourself, what does this mean?
Hmm.
What does channel mean? Let me make sure I understand what channel is.
Yeah. And
There's another one.
that was going to be my next question was to go, well, to ask what does D&D mean?
Yeah,
I'm
it
like,
means
I
do
think,
not disturb,
because I think it means do not disturb, but if we're doing
as
like a
opposed to
pen and
Dungeons and
paper
Dragons.
pen and paper role play games, I'm like, I probably got a Slack channel where people are playing D&D.
Yeah, I think the first time I looked at that, I might have thought, is that some kind of specific slang for something? But then it popped into my head. Oh, do not disturb. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So then there's something called do not disturb override. What is
Yeah.
that?
Is that kind of like the when you're in a channel,
Yeah.
and you go at channel, you get a warning sign, um, that says notify everyone in this chat. Or it should give you a notification, some sort of
It
warning.
will it will when you actually send it.
Okay, I'm not going to send an at channel notification.
Well, you could, and it'll stop you. I
Okay.
think it'll stop you. It says, "Are you sure you want to do this?"
Yeah, because it will notify.
And then you can say no. You can say no. I don't want to do it.
Okay.
If it doesn't, I'll take responsibility. I mean, you can go ahead and you could say everyone, and not channel, but everyone, and then it'll say, "You sure this is going to cross 28 time zones?"
Yeah, because I think at here is just notify every online member in this channel. So this should be like who is online right now.
Right. Go ahead. Send it.
Yeah.
Send it right now. I think it's going to give you a warning.
Okay. Notify.
See? Yeah, you go.
There's the
maybe
warning.
you don't want to do it. Right. So no, I don't want to do it.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Sweet.
That's right. So, but that's the thing is that that's not the do not disturb override.
Yeah. What does the
So
do not disturb?
what is the right? So you don't know what the do not disturb override is. You don't know. Is that true? Or do you know?
No, I don't know. I just assume.
Okay.
So
Here, the do not disturb override happens when you send somebody a message. They are in do not disturb.
Yeah.
And it says,
Oh,
sends a message. Then it says, Samantha Conley has turned off notifications. Do you want to notify her anyway? That's the do not disturb override.
Yeah. So there's an activity. Set yourself as away or pause notifications. Okay, so if I wanted to chill out and focus for 2 hours, because
I can do it. I can do it so you can send me a message.
Okay.
So how about if I make myself? I'm gonna try to set myself to.
You've already set notifications turned off.
I'm about to. Oh, it says do not disturb. Oh, I have some sort of nightly do not disturb on.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it.
Active notification snoozed.
Right. So can you override it?
I don't know if I should actually ping you in a direct message.
Try to override it. It just I thought it gives you the ability to override it. It doesn't. It didn't do that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Notify anyway. Click on it. Click on that. I want to see if I get anything. Notifications sent. Okay, I did get a little red dot notification from that. So yes, I received a silent notification. Fat lot of good that did. I don't know why I'm not receiving any audible notifications, but I am not. Wait, my phone was on silent mode, so maybe that has something to do with it. But I should have. Oh. And my iPad is always in do not disturb mode. I forgot about that. Just goes to show you, we really have to work on our configuration discipline.
Yeah.
When we're doing this, you know what? If we were developing a systematic way of doing this, we always start unsystematically and then we develop a systematic way. To do it a systematic way, we should probably step one, configure all devices according to the configuration plan, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And we probably should have a device configuration plan. You know me, I'm not a big fan of write everything down, but this is one of those things that I think we should actually write down, actually have in a spreadsheet or something.
Yeah.
A plan of different devices configured in different ways systematically, so that we can send one message and actually test notifications across a number of users, a number of devices. Each of these devices should be logged in as maybe two users. I mean, one user for every two devices, so that we could deal with the disparity of different devices and different users and their active and inactive statuses. And then we have a bunch of different users, and then we would set up a special channel that all of our test users were a member of, and no one but those users were a member of. That way we could do the here test, right?
Yeah.
We might have a special test workspace, and we can send everyone messages to that. And perhaps we would get these devices set up in a certain configuration that wouldn't change. Or unless we were changing it as part of a test, of course. But they would have a standard starting configuration that we would either manually set up, or maybe there's an automated way of setting this up using robotic process automation.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So this one we'd have like device notifications. Yes.
Yeah.
No. Silent. Do not disturb. So this would be do not disturb device specific, and then not disturb, can't spell, and then maybe do not disturb Slack. So you can combine like do not disturb on device and do not disturb Slack. But yeah, this type of gnarly problem I think is useful to eventually start getting to a spreadsheet where you can basically list out all the configuration that you want to do. I have a quick look through. So the preferences are the blue ones. We've got channel muted. Preferences for this. What is the user's channel notifications? The global notifications preference for this device?
Yeah, there are global notification preferences. That means for the whole app.
Yeah.
And then channel notifications for specific channels. So you can set a global behavior that is overridden by individual channels. And depending whether you are in that channel or not, you will or will not get a notification. So what I did is I went through each of those boxes and tried to say, what does this mean? And I found out that there were at least one instance where I didn't understand. Like, look at the one that says threads everything pref on. What do you think that means? The threads everything prefs.
That looks like a variable somewhere, like something potentially server-side threads everything, preference on.
Right. Now, so I saw that and I felt the same. I had the same reaction that you did. And then I was looking at the actual preferences setting dialog box. If you go try to set preferences for global for the whole app. Go to preferences for the whole. You are over there. Okay, that's preferences for the channel, I think. Isn't that what you're in? Are you in preferences for the channel or for the whole app?
I think this is preferences for the whole web app, because this is accessibility sidebar.
Okay, maybe you're right. Okay, so go to notifications.
Messages and media. I don't think I can set notifications in this
It's
one.
on the top. It's on the top.
Oh. I couldn't see the first one.
Right. Now scroll down. Scroll up. Oh, I don't think this is the one.
Yeah, because this is web.
Yeah. let's get out of that and instead go to your app, the whole app. Go to the top of the app, or go to the workspace where it says Rapid Software Testing Workspace. Bring that down. Okay, and go to Preferences there. And keywords. Action Center, scroll up. Scroll up, scroll up.
Huh.
Scroll up all the way to the top. Oh, no, it's not there.
So there's this interesting config who use different settings for my mobile devices.
Yes, that's also interesting. I think that shows up in the diagram. But I think that threads everything, I think that means notify me about replies to the threads I'm following and notify me about all new messages. I think it might mean both of those things on at the same time, the threads everything, but I'm not absolutely sure. So the point is that I went through the app and
notify me about replies to threads.
Yeah, I think threads everything means you want everything and you have that checked on. But there may be another place to set this. If you close this preference diagram, I think this is the global preferences one. Close this on your desktop over on the side. The preferences, close that, and then if you go to the channel, go to the general channel, and then at the top, where it says general, can you click on the general? I think you'll get change notifications. Try that.
And just trying to navigate all these different notification settings is just
so threads everything might mean every new message. Maybe that's what that means, except I thought there was a word threads that came into it. So yeah, isn't this confusing though? You've got the app level notifications, and then you have the channel notifications.
Yeah.
And then we seem to have
Mr. Product
the app
Owner
notifications. So there's a workspace, the channel, and the user, and I'm not sure. I think all three of those might interact. And then there's your individual mobile devices.
Yeah. So I'm talking back to the product owner for Slack now, as a suggestion for how to potentially improve these notifications. Hopefully it's demonstrable that it is actually quite confusing to try and navigate. It might be worth doing a user research project with some of the designers. If they could come up with a couple of different prototypes on how to better access and better manage notifications across all these different configs, they might be able to come up with 4 or 5 different prototypes, and you might be able to test them you only need to test them with maybe about 5 actual users to get most of the usability quirks to see if there's any improvements that could be made, and use that iterative approach when trying to, maybe it's worth considering doing a redesign for how users handle notifications if we're looking at enhancing these as well.
Yeah, I guess you're right. It's so easy to be confused by this, and I guess the engineers that create it are in the middle of all of it. Now, we do have documentation. I'm looking at guide to Slack notifications right now, and there's even a YouTube video, for instance. And so I can let me share this with you now. I'm putting it into your. I just DM'd you with it, and you got a notification. Your essential guide to Slack notifications, how notifications work, someone sends you a direct message, someone mentions you, someone replies to a thread you're following. You receive a message from Slackbot. Oh, that's another category.
Oh yeah, we haven't done any bot integrations because there are developers who can build their own bots.
Right.
There was a
Yeah.
team I was working on, and the product owner or the lead developer would have a bot who would let him notify of any outage of any API responses. It was actually
Yeah.
pretty cool, but like he would actually respond, wake up to those at 2 o'clock in the morning. But yeah, I guess it is that kind of mission critical type of if people are using Slack to instead of a pager system.
Yeah.
Notification area blue badge means you. Oh, okay, and the red badge. Yeah, and there's also an option for. We haven't even touched email notifications either.
Right. So there's a lot of things, but it seems like there's a progression here. Let me summarize a little bit what's happened. We realized we've got to be careful and systematic about the selection and configuration of the various receiving devices so that we can systematically test notifications. We've realized that notifications can be configured in a number of overlapping ways, and we need to understand those. We first got our feet wet with it, which is perfectly reasonable. We might stumble into a bug doing that. So we started by just unsystematically or not very systematically playing with it, just trying out some different things to see what happened. Our brain is getting kind of pickled, kind of soaked in this stuff, and we're starting to get some ideas. Then you started going systematically through the diagram. Now notice that we haven't even gotten to the graph theory part of this. We're still in the idea of what do these boxes really mean? And notice how when you find a box and then you try to think, what does it mean? What's our first thing that we think of doing? Generally speaking, it's let's go to the application and see.
Yeah, and see if we can find something.
It's usually not, let's go find an expert or let's read the documentation. Those are two very reasonable things. Let's find an expert. Let's read the documentation. But a very powerful thing is just to go to the product and just try it and see if you can intuit. You can figure it out, which also, by the way, ends up being kind of a usability test anyway, because your own confusion might make you think, as you just pointed out, hey, wait a minute, time out. Maybe we need to do a systematic usability study here because I'm feeling confused. I'm feeling overwhelmed. And that itself is an oracle of usability, right? Of how of non-usability. So we're going through now, we're looking at each of these boxes, and this is even before we've looked at pathways. But here's a thing you can do with pathways. You could just take a big fat pen. You could print this out, right? And just take a big fat pen and just highlighter and just draw some paths, maybe in different colors. Yeah. Maybe you draw some green ones. These are like happy paths, and then try to think of the weirdest path you can imagine and draw that in a red highlighter as a sort of a wacky path.
Yeah. So I think potentially like the longest no path that eventually gets to a yes could be like an interesting path to take.
Absolutely. A self-avoiding path is a self-avoiding random walk ends up being a really, really long way to get somewhere, and we can explore that. But here's something else that I did that I'd like to share with you. Here's what I'll do. I will drop this file in the Slack. It might be too big. I think it's a bit big, but I want to try to dump it in here. So there it is, and It's sending now. It says processing uploaded file. It's processing. It's processing. It's 20 megabytes.
Okay, that's actually not too bad.
It's 20 megabytes. It's an Excel file, and boy, maybe I don't know how long. There you go. You got it now. Okay, open that up if you can. Well, it takes a lot less time to open it than it did to. Oh, you don't have Excel?
No.
Oh, wow. How do you live?
I use Google Sheet everywhere. Actually, yeah.
Can you open it in Google Sheets?
Yeah, I can.
Google Sheets kinda icky.
I just need to upload it into.
Well, that's commendable. My brother does that too. I'm just, for historical reasons, stuck on Excel. Before that, it was Quattro Pro for Windows, which was the Borland version of Excel, back when it was competing with Excel. Boy, that's going to take a while to get uploaded, though, probably.
It's already uploaded. It's now just trying to render. So it's converting the Excel spreadsheet format into Google Sheet format.
Well, there's a few rows in that. I think there's 466,000 rows. So it's kind of a stress test, a bit of a stress test maybe for Google Sheets, if you open with Google Sheets. But here's what I did. I wrote a program that traveled every path. And there are 466,000 paths.
I was thinking if you got to actually did the sequence diagram and calculated how many paths there would be, it'd be like a couple of thousand different paths. No, it's too large.
Many thousands. Many thousands.
There we go. We've hit the Google Sheets limit.
Well, I could just, I guess if I can't share my screen, then
you can share your screen.
Oh, I can share my screen? How do I share my screen? What's my button that I press? Oh, share.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to continue with, let's see, I'll share that screen up there. And now I will try to open my file again since I closed it to send it to you. So here is, it's opening. There it is. So I used abbreviations at the top here, and I honestly don't remember what my abbreviation stood for, but you can see the different values here. There's 13 variables.
Yeah.
And so channel muted or not muted, channel prefs, defaults, user active or not active, do not disturb active and overridden versus do not disturb inactive, user following thread or not following the threads, a channel message or it's not a channel message, thread message, thread message not followed, no mention or is there a mention, and then there's global. What are the global preferences? And then I never finished the program. I partly finished it so that it would automatically calculate whether there's supposed to be a notification or not. So I did get to the point, and let me show you what the program looks like so you get a sense of it. I was trying to show that doing programs like this is not very complicated, and I sort of ended up showing the opposite because it does, to a non-programmer, look pretty complicated. But so that analysis that you and I were doing, it turned into this, an organization, systematic of the channel factors, membership status, yes, no, or former means you used to be a member of the channel and now you have left, because I thought that's an interesting test case, isn't it? Because it's you were, and then you left, and maybe the system still thinks you are, and you get a message even though you weren't. So I added that as a tester, as a
Yeah.
testerly thing, because it's not actually on that diagram, which just goes to show you've got to add stuff to diagrams that non-testers don't put on diagrams because they think no one would ever do that. So
Yeah.
you always have to think out what you need to add.
Yeah, so
Muted,
I was
unmuted.
thinking of being able to, like, if you mapped out the graph programmatically, it's fairly easy from a program point of view to list out all the paths once it is representative in a graph point of view. It's just that initial step can seem a little daunting, but using a bit of programming language to help represent data or come up with those variations, I think is a really cool thing for testers to be able to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is an example of modeling I had to do because I had to sort this out into its mutually exclusive elements. Either you are you're using defaults for your level of notification. Either you take the defaults or you set something. And if you set something, either you have a desktop or you have mobile. And then I took those things and I permuted those things with all these things down here. Channel factors, membership status, membership. I don't remember what membership second was all about. In retrospect, I did this like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I really wish if I could go back in time to say, James, would you just please put some documentation in the top of this so that your future self doesn't have to do archaeology to remember what all these things are. So it's going to take me a couple of hours just to get back up to speed with this if I wanted to do this. So that's the basic data. And then this is the table maker that makes the table. And I was trying to show that this is really simple, but it turned out it wasn't that simple to write the software to do this, which just goes to show that it's helpful to have a toolsmith. So if I were just a generic toolsmith that didn't know anything about testing, and a tester came to me and said, I need you to do a program that will walk through all these possibilities and then calculate all the different possible conditions. And then, so you see, I didn't actually write a program that traversed the paths, because to do that, that's what gives you the answer of yes or no. I haven't done that yet. All I did is identified the different conditions that will generate a path, or it should generate a path, which is in some interesting sense unique, in some interesting testable sense, not the same as something else. And of those, there are 466,000, but I have not done the next step. Well, one of the next step is to go through represent the logic of the table and figure out exactly what the yeses or nos are. I just did the easy ones that it was easy for the program to say, no, I shouldn't get a notification. But the other thing we need to do, Sam, is to reduce this. And there's various reduction strategies we could use. For instance, we could randomly sample 500 rows out of 466,000. Just randomly choose 500 of them. And even then, you're going to want some kind of automation.
Yes. You don't want to be able to do this stuff manually.
This is really where automation is useful. People constantly say automation is useful for regression checking. It maybe I've done totally unautomated regression stuff and it can be fine. But when you're trying to systematically test a space like this, you want to try hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cases. And I'm not going to do Mechanical Turk for that. I wouldn't be able to trust getting 500 people. And even if I had 500 people and they're willing to help me any way I want, I wouldn't trust the results. It would be such chaos. So this is a perfect tailor-made situation for automation if there ever was. So I would work with you. If I were the toolsmith and you were the test architect, I'd work with you and I'd expect you to tell me What do you want? What do you want, Sam? I'll give it to you. You want the moon? I'll lasso it for you. Whatever. I'm the toolsmith. My pride comes with delivering automation that's cool automation that helps people and they puts a smile on their face. I'm not really interested in testing when I'm in my toolsmith mode. But here's what I keep finding, Sam, is that testers, even when they have a toolsmith sitting next to them, they're not used to it. They don't know what to ask the toolsmith for. They won't just say what they want so that the programmer can do it for them. And so it turns out that's a skill. There's a whole skill to asking a programmer for what you want in terms of automation. And what a programmer frequently says, if they're not clued into all this, is they just say, well, I'll write some automation. You better write all the test cases. And then the testers kind of slink off and feel like, oh, I got to write all these test cases. But you can go back to the developer and say, no, let's do this a different way. Why don't you generate the test cases based on a model that I'll give you, a table, and you generate those automatically. And then you can automatically run them. And then we have some technical problems to solve here. How are we going to configure the systems automatically? How are we going to automatically know that a notification actually happened? Maybe what we should have, Sam, you know what? Maybe we should break this up into server-side notification testing.
Yeah.
Because if it's server-side, what we can do is we can automatically find out from the server, did you send a notification? And we can at least test that part. Now, maybe the notification doesn't get to its endpoint. That's a different testing process.
Yeah.
Maybe we could do two different testing processes where we'll do the 466,000 cases will just be on the server side because we can totally automate that. And then on the client side, we'll do a much smaller sample of relatively simple testing, not these 466,000 cases, because that's not going to be as easy to automate, right? Because someone's got to sit there and punch the screen. Anyway.
I mean, like, it reminds me of a story I'm going to tell from my previous team. So I was working on an investment mobile app where it's for your retirement. So you have transactions that come in and transactions that come out, but it's not modeled like a banking platform where you have credits and debits because it's weird that contributions can have both credits and debits components. So, for example, if your employer pays into this out on top of your salary, which is a thing in Australia, 9.5% of your on top of your salary gets paid into your retirement fund. But that's taxed at a different rate. So that extra money that goes in is technically a credit, but there's also a 15% tax rate that is debited from that transaction. So, long story short, transactions were really complicated. We had like 150 different variations, and they all had slightly different credit and debit components when combined with tax and no tax and a bunch of funky things. And I helped the team come up with an approach. It's like, if we give every transaction its value as we're testing it, then if a certain credit calculation is meant to be, transaction type 1 plus transaction type 2 minus transaction type 3 subpar 4, then we can calculate that the actual value is meant to be 1 plus 2 minus 1. And we're like, so by plugging that in and getting the expectations and building that as part of our unit testing, we were really confident that was not likely to break. And so the business analysts had helped with analyzing all those different transaction scenarios. And it's like, hey, do you just want to write something in Excel that would create all of the JSON that would go into all of these different test cases? And then we just said, here, developer, here are all the test cases for this credit and debit calculation.
Good. All right.
And it was really powerful to get the team together to collaborate on how to do better unit testing for something that was really complicated.
Sounds like strategic thinking. That sounds like you're thinking that your testing can happen on any of multiple levels, and you're not just tied to one level. So that's another problem that maybe you've seen testers have, is a lot of times they're just stuck at the GUI level, and they don't realize there might be a much easier way of doing this other than the GUI level. But they're just not used to thinking that way. Maybe they're new to this, so they're always just thinking, I have to write a test procedure, I have to write another test case, I have to automate it using Selenium. We want to develop a range of practices, a range of possibilities, and then choose the right way to slice it, the best way to slice it, so that we can get good value for a reasonable price. And it sounds like in that case, you realized on the unit level, they can solve this so that you don't need to worry about it down the line.
Yeah.
On the
Trying to do
end-to-end
that.
basis.
Yeah, trying to do that further down the stream would have been like, there's no point doing that mobile side.
Yeah, so I especially love this kind of testing. I call this analytical testing. Analytical testing is any kind of testing you end up making a spreadsheet, a diagram. It ends up brushing up against mathematics or involving mathematics to reduce things. It maybe involve statistics. But notice that the beginning of this was just trying to understand, how does this work? What do these things mean? Just understanding that requires talking to people, and it requires exploring the product. And that comes before the mathematics. And it's so fundamental. To this day, I don't know if I wrote this program I showed you, but I don't know if I correctly understood the diagram, because I didn't have anyone inside Slack to talk to. Yeah. So I was not able to do the real professional testing step of talk to the developers, show this off to the developers and say, what do you think, developers? Am I off base? And they'll go, why are we even doing that? We already did it. Or, that's not how that works. Let me walk you through the code. And that I love that when it happens. It also helps you build the relationship with the developers. Well, I couldn't do that in this case. So in this situation, it's just a simulation. But it's still a fun thing to try to write software to generate these kinds of cases. And sometimes there's tools that can do this for you, but I find that there's not much in the way of tools that will help you generate test cases that are ready-made. You pretty much have to write them yourself, is what I found. That's not me getting you. Someone else is getting it right now.
Yeah.
So are we at our time limit now?
Yeah, we are. I'll get back to work after this, because it's about 4:30 in the afternoon. And I've got.
All right. Well, thank you, Sam. It was really nice to do this with you. I feel honored to watch you at work, and I admire what I'm seeing.
Well, thank you. I've really enjoyed this pair testing session. I've learned a lot, and I hope anyone who's watching this live has also learnt a thing or two. I'd highly recommend checking out any of the books that James has authored. Also, he has, a ton of content online and puts out so many resources for free. There's
Satisfice.com.
Satisfice.com. There we go. We'll make sure that link goes up. Satisfice.com. And if you ever get an opportunity to go check out Rapid Software Testing as a course, I think it's one of the best courses that any tester can do.
Oh, thank you.
Well, if I've interviewed other testers and I see Rapid Software Testing, it's almost like a filter for. I don't get to see that many. I just wish I saw more people who put it on their CVs, but it's kind of hard to scale that type of
no
that type of training.
Just teach 20 people at a time.
Yeah, that's it. So it's a stamp of pride,
at
least on my testing CV.
Yeah. Well, I'm thank you so much.
Cool.
Good luck.